You're listening to the Simply Flawsome Show, a podcast designed for you to listen, learn, and leverage. Please welcome your host, Zoe Turner.
Of the Simply Flawsome podcast, and I've got a very exciting guest here for you today. Before I go ahead and introduce him, I'd like to thank Rove Hotel for allowing us to use their amazing venue here and supporting the podcast. It really means a lot to me. So I'm really looking forward to chatting to today's guest. I've been trying to get him onto the podcast for a while. This man, he has the determination of steel, and I'm interested to find out how he does what he does. He is an ex-Marine, an entrepreneur and humanitarian, and he is the co-founder of a non-profit organisation here in Dubai called Team Angel Wolf. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Nick Watson to the podcast today.
Hey Zoe, how you doing?
Hi Nick, thank you for your time today.
Big pleasure.
I know life is pretty hectic for you, so thank you for coming in today.
Of course.
So for the listeners at home, Nick, who don't know who you are and what you do, can you tell us a little bit of your backstory and in particular the inspiration behind Team Angel Wolf?
Well, look, I'm going to have to go back quite a few years, probably to the ripe old age of about 16, where really the story and sport started. So as you can probably tell from my accent, originally from the UK. My parents decided to sell everything up in the UK and move to France when I was 16. And they bought this beautiful hotel, which they still are at, in central France on the side of this lake. When I got there, I found out all of a sudden they did a triathlon. So obviously a swim, bike, run, which was literally in front of the hotel. So I did my first race there, across the finish line, and fell in love with the sport. And that changed me. So that had that kind of desire to potentially follow a career in health and fitness. It took me off in a slightly different direction for the time being. I stayed in France. I studied art at l'École des Beaux-Arts. But whilst I was there, we started a triathlon club, and we used to race every weekend, every other weekend. We travelled around France racing. So I just fell in love with this sport, and I loved everything that it had to offer. But then obviously being a hippie artist wasn't quite the direction at the time. So we did that for a few years, and I had an urge to kind of keep myself fit, keep myself well, and went back to the UK and I joined the Royal Marines. And had 5 amazing years within the Royal Marines. We travelled the world, and the great thing about, obviously, especially the Marines, you have to be fit. And just thought, look, this is a good career at the time. And it was just a great stepping stone of getting myself fit, getting myself healthy. And obviously we partied a lot and had a great time back in the Marines. But then always had the desire to help others get fit, get healthy. When I came out the Marines in 96, my direction then was towards personal training, sports therapy, of which we did a course back in the UK. I met my lovely wife, Delphine, on the course. And when we finished the course, we were kind of a little bit like myself because I spent so much time in the Marines traveling. Delphine also had spent time before the course traveling. She spent time in Australia and New Zealand. We kind of wanted to find somewhere abroad outside the UK and find somewhere a little bit warmer. So 20 years ago, backpack, £800 in my pocket, one-way ticket to Dubai. We arrived in Dubai. So that was kind of up to coming here. We started our initial kind of work here. We set up actually the WAFI. So the WAFI's got a Pharaoh's club, and it's got a climbing wall. So obviously ex-military, that was my first job here in Dubai. So we set up the climbing wall. And then our goal was to help others. We got very much into personal training. And back in those days, my wife trained lots of Emirati ladies. I trained the husbands and the family. And that's how we started. And then we opened up our first personal training centre in 2003. In Jumeirah, which I think at the time was probably the first personal training centre actually here in the Middle East when we did the research. There was I think there were 5 personal trainers in Dubai at the time.
Wow, yeah, and it's very much a crowded space now.
It's very busy now, and that was kind of our introduction into health and fitness here in the UAE. But the same year that we opened up the doors to the business called U Concept, our first son Rio came into our lives, and
how old is Rio?
Rio's now 16, and everything changed when he was about 6 months old. Up to that date, we thought everything was fine, but I think looking back, Mum always thinks there was something not right. All the dots didn't really connect. But at 6 months, we were, always remember the moment, we were bathing Rio. It was a Friday afternoon, kind of happy moment for Mum and Dad, and I was in the bath with Rio. He's kind of laid on my chest, and all of a sudden the little boy stopped breathing, went blue, his eyes rolled back into the back of his head, and he went completely floppy. And obviously I panicked, screamed. Delphine rushed into the bathroom. We got him out, weren't sure what to do. So we bundled him into the car, rushed down to the hospital, and after we kind of looked at the first one, probably about 7 minutes, Rio kind of became more conscious. By the time we got to the hospital, he was kind of a little bit more sitting upright. So we went in and saw the specialist, and they looked at him and said, "Look, he looks okay," and they sent us home. So we're like, "What's just happened?" So we go home. That's Friday, in shock. And then Saturday, the next day, the same thing happens.
Was he having an epileptic fit?
Well, that's what it was. They were seizures. They were seizures, but most people, when you think an epileptic fit, then people go more rigid. Rio goes the opposite. He goes completely floppy, and literally completely almost lifeless. That's where he goes into this unconscious state. His breathing literally almost stops. He goes blue. He goes extremely pale. And starts dribbling, and obviously we think we're going to lose this little boy. So the Saturday was his second one, and then they started, and for no apparent reason, still to this day we don't know really what kicks them off. Every couple of days in the beginning he was starting to have them, and obviously for those that have kids, a 6-month child, you have no idea what's happening. And it started us on a journey, and that journey took us probably about 4.5 years to kind of get to his condition. But within those 4 years, obviously, we saw so many different people, obviously based here in Dubai. We saw specialists here. We ended up going back to the UK. But at the end of the day, we found some great guys in London, and their specialty was chromosomes. And we found that Rio has a minuscule deletion on one chromosome 1. So we're all made up of just over 22 pairs of chromosomes. So on chromosome 1, he has a minuscule part that's deleted, and his condition is so rare, it's actually named after the part, the deletion on the chromosome. So it's called 1q44 deletion. It also has a word at the end, says de novo, which means it's non-hereditary. It's not come from mum or dad. It is just life has given us Rio. And that's been a kind of a real journey for us, and that's where everything started.
Okay, so what is his? Thank you for that.
Sure.
So his condition is what? The name is what you've just said.
It's the name of the part of the chromosome that's missing. So it's not like what would be used to. Like,
is that what specialists do when they just don't know what it is?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. Well, it's not so much that make up a name, but it's just because there's not enough children to have a generic name for it.
How many other children in the world?
Well, look, we, at the time as well, Delphine started with another lady actually in the US, started up a Facebook group. There were just 2 of them. So we thought social media was a great way to start to connect, to see people's stories. Now I think there's probably at least over 100 people that are a part of the group. But I think also what we've come to learn is, especially in the early days of Rio, unfortunately sometimes children are either not diagnosed because they've just not seen the right specialists, or they've been slightly misdiagnosed, because chromosomes is so varied, you know what I mean? And even down the path of looking for Rio's condition, he was diagnosed with different conditions just because of either the specialists that we saw at the time. And it was quite an interesting journey. But the Rio now 16. Just to give you an idea, as obviously the listeners will be thinking, so how does that affect him? So Rio has severe learning disability, so a lot of things are a challenge for him. So just even basic skills for him, holding something, feeding himself, so even holding a spoon, that's still a challenge today for him to feed himself. Even walking, his whole sensory, and the more we get to learn about Rio, his sensory perception, even his sight and his vision and his hearing, I think they're working overtime. So I think if he comes into a new environment, even like this in this room, there'll be a lot of things for him to try and kind of figure out in his own little world what's happening. So obviously there's light, there's a little bit of noise from the air conditioning, and it takes him time to get used to that. Even when he's walking, sometimes his perception, he doesn't always literally look where he's going. So we're always prompting him, saying, look, there's a step, but I think he knows there's a step. So he'll take our hand whilst he's walking, etc. And then even little things like gross fine motor skills. So little things are a little bit of a challenge, even pressing a button on something, that's quite a lot of coordination for him to do, and it's still a challenge for him. He's, I'd like to say non-verbal, but Rio is learning things over repetition. So over the years, he loves, to be honest, he loves music. He loves nursery rhymes. He loves anything to do with any forms of sound. And he will repeat them. So things like happy birthday, obviously he knows happy birthday. He'll sing happy birthday 10 times a day at home. Hopefully it's someone's birthday. If it's your birthday, so come around to our house, he will sing you happy birthday for sure. And little stories that we've told over the years, like the Gruffalo, he started to learn that as well. So anything that's full of repetition, he learns in that way. And then obviously now and again he picks up words that he'll say. Sometimes they're not clear. He's got something going on at the moment. We have no idea. He repeats it on a regular basis. We're not quite sure what it is. We're quite excited to find out what it is that he's trying to tell us. But yeah, he's a happy little boy as well, you know what I mean? But then there's still challenges. He's still in nappies. So that is, you imagine as a 16-year-old, that's a real challenge for us as a family. You can imagine what it's like when we take him out. So now he's big. Mum taking Rio into the bathroom is a challenge. And me taking him into the bathroom is a challenge, obviously trying to find the right toilets, etc. So yeah, it definitely comes with its struggles.
Thank you for that. So move forward to today.
Yeah.
And what you've developed as an organisation, your non-profit organisation, Team Angel Wolf, and I'd like to go into a little bit more detail about the challenges that go into running that. Yeah. Because I don't think a lot of people out there really kind of maybe understand what it takes to do it, and the challenges that you do face to keep it alive in many ways.
Well, look, we started Team Angel Wolf we did our first race 5 years ago. For I think it's 17th of November 2014. We'd kind of looked into ways.
Was that DIT?
Yeah, it was DIT.
I think that was my first.
You're joking? On the palm?
Yes.
There you go.
That was mine too. That was my first 70.3.
No way.
I've only done 2.
Fantastic. Okay, there you go. All right, there's a story, there's a connection. So we were in the summer. Prior to that, I had a bit of a health scare, and it was a bit of a wake-up call. Wasn't feeling very well, a bit pale. Went to see the doctor. They said, you don't look well. I was like, well, that's why I'm here to see you. So they ran some tests and ran some more tests, and then obviously they had to look internally because I was bleeding from somewhere. And they found a big lump in my colon. It was about 6 centimetres. And they said, look, we don't want that to stay there because it will change. Obviously, we went into surgery, took it out, and as I woke up, I was kind of to my wife, I want to do an Ironman, as you do. But the last time, just as a story, the last time I did an Ironman was in Hawaii at the World Championships, and Delphine was there and she was pregnant with Rio. And I always remember turning around to her and saying, one day I want to bring my son and daughter, we didn't know boy or a girl, back here and we race together. So one day we will go back to Kona. So as I woke up in surgery, I was like, okay, I want to prepare myself for a race. But it was more about me. And then a few months into training wasn't going so well. We didn't have much time, but I was trying to prepare myself for Barcelona. Had about 6 months to get ready. And I remember Delphine turned around to me one day and said, look, have you ever thought about racing with Rio? And then it was life-changing. I was like, wow, yeah, because Rio loves sensory. He loves movement. He loves like anything that when we're in the car, he loves that. So we thought, wow, how about doing a sport which I could include him, which includes him into the community and obviously all the great things that we do as well. So we planned DIT and we went out to corporates and amazing. We got all the equipment sponsored. So we had a kayak, a bike, and obviously the pushchair from Adventure HQ at the time. And we got all the equipment literally weeks before the race, and we were like, oh, we've hardly even tested this. We don't know how Rio's going to do. But wow. I thought, look, if we're going to do a race, let's do a race that has a purpose. There's no point in doing a small race. There's a lot of logistics with what we do. So, yeah, Rio was 11 at the time. Little boy. And there's photos where he's a tiny little boy that sits in this kayak. So we took him on the race. I had a friend, Ashley, who was the CEO of Adventure HQ at the time. And we said, look, can you follow us? So, obviously, just in case Rio decides to jump out, because we did a practice swim prior to the race. And we were swimming down in Jumeirah, so I'd taken Rio out. And Rio likes movement, but when we stop, he's not happy. So I swam into a load of jellyfish, was getting stung, so I stopped. So then all of a sudden, Rio thought it was fun that we'd stop, so he jumps out the kayak, and I'm like, oh my God. So I'm trying to get Rio back in, thinking, okay, this is a bit life-changing.
So he's not harnessed in?
He's not harnessed in, no.
Into the bike?
No, this is on the kayak, so this is on the boat. On the bike, yes. So I get him back in, and I kind of all of a sudden realised that, yeah, okay, how's this going to be on race day, which was like a few weeks later. But needless to say, we did the race, we did the kayak, and then or the swim, which was 1.9, cycled 90, and then ran 21, and crossed the finish line. This little boy absolutely loved it. And from then we started, look, maybe there's a way that we could do this. We'd had a couple of issues. We'd lost 2 companies since we'd been here. We were going through the second one, and it was just an absolute nightmare. We'd lost everything that we'd invested for the last 20 years. This is the second occasion. And we just thought, look, how's a way that we could give back to the community? So we set up Team Angel Wolf as a non-profit organisation at the beginning of our second season. And we started to see what impact it was having on the community, obviously not only when we race, and then how important it was that we felt that Rio was being included into the community, and that's always been our goal. Rio, this little boy with disabilities, we wanted to make sure that he is a part of everything that we do, and that's when we set Team Angel off as a non-profit organisation with the Community Development Authority, which we're about to renew in December, so it'll be our 3rd year.
Okay, thank you. What is your mission of Team Angel Wolf?
Look, our mission, very simple. I think it's to make a more inclusive, healthier global community. We really want to make a difference, and we want to make sure that not just Rio, but hopefully by what we're doing, we're inspiring other families to also show them that it's okay to potentially bring their child out into the public eye, get them involved in health and fitness and sport or communities or whatever activity that family or that child may like. And I think that's really important to us. But at the end of the day, all we're doing is we're telling a story. This is our story, but we want people to connect in it in their own way. And if they feel, look, fantastic, they'd like to get involved, would like to get their children involved, then that would be brilliant. And then on the flip side, I think what we do maybe inspires people to get fit, to get healthy, because of that's been our background. That's been our whole goal in the health and fitness journey, being a personal trainer. You're always there to inspire people, to kind of show them the ropes. And I think hopefully that's what our story is doing.
Thank you. So Nick, what goes into running a non-profit organisation? What are the challenges? I imagine that you have to wear a lot of hats.
Yeah. And look, it's it's not been easy. Like I said, we're coming into our actually 5th year of sponsorship. So as a non-profit organisation, the only way we can receive assistance financially is through what we call sponsorship. So a company can sponsor us. In return, already we are using their brand. They're on my tri-suit, they're on our equipment, they're all obviously as a partner in everything that we do. So you might see obviously all our things on social media. Every time we're doing a race, we're thanking our partners and our sponsors. We're actually using the word partnership this year. We kind of think it's a nicer word rather than sponsors. So we have to go out into the market and find sponsors. That is a challenge. It is a challenge every year. Obviously, that financial side allows us to do what we do full time. There is 2 of us. There's me and my wife that run Team Angel Wolf. And I'll be honest with you, for the last 5 years, we barely survive. Because as a non-profit organisation, how we've been set up, we are allowed to pay, well, only myself, because I've become the general manager of the organisation, of the foundation. So I can pay myself a salary. Delphine also, because we're a foundation, she's the big boss, if that makes sense. She is the founder. We have a board of directors, of which we must have a local Emirati on the board who's been unbelievable. From the Community Development Authority, also from their side, we must also have a representative as a local Emirati as well. And then the other people I go out and choose are basically friends, but all have great skill sets to help Team Angel Wolf. So obviously there's 2 of us that work full time. The board is there to assist, of which throughout the year, like any organisation, we must be audited, which is fantastic, love it. We must have monthly meetings / minutes to show exactly what we do. And then that's obviously all followed up and overseen by the Community Development Authority, which is to be honest, which is fantastic. The only huge difficulty is finding the sponsors, and that is our biggest challenge. We cannot fundraise without relevant permissions.
Okay. And one of my questions was, do you rely solely on sponsorship, or are the grants available that are accessible to you?
Not necessarily grants. No, not. I wish that was available. We would love to get more different types of support, but I think I'd have to be honest with you. The Community Development Authority and where they are at the moment is also growing and evolving, and everything that's great in Dubai is kind of in its infancy.
It's interesting because I've just spoken about that with Holly when we were talking about the challenges of entrepreneurship and setting yourself up in your own business. Dubai is very different to a lot of developed countries, very much in its infancy, very much evolving.
Yeah. Well, look, and that is a great thing. And I think where we are at the moment, and being a part of obviously being licensed under the Community Development Authority, things are growing and evolving, and they're loving our feedback, you know what I mean? And I think like anything in time, I think, you know, for us, we've been here a long time, 20 years. They're very interested to understand our feedback. So I actually had a meeting with them a month ago, and I told them my challenges. I said, my challenges are finding sponsors, of which they are going to go out and help, because as the great thing about Dubai, people want to help organizations, but they don't know how. You know, they don't know how could we help Team Angel Wolf? How could we help any organization that fits, obviously, that as a corporate entity, of which they are going to assist us with. So it's evolving, and the meeting was just wonderful. The guys, they're like, we are here to help you. We are here to understand your difficulties, because we all want to be a success in Dubai. And I have to be honest with you, it's probably the reason why we still live here, because I probably wouldn't get that type of support and those type of meetings with that kind of openness anywhere else. And that's probably led us to continue to do what we do. But yeah, the sponsorship is a challenge, but at the moment the grants really don't even exist.
I can see that they do want to help, quite simply because what you bring to the community.
Yes.
And it's also, I don't know if this is, maybe the right thing to say, but it's good PR for Dubai. I mean, it looks, what you're doing is fantastic. And, it's, to see the country supporting that, or Dubai supporting that, it reflects well on them as well.
Look, and that, I'll be honest with you, that's one of our wishes. My wish since we've set this up for the last 3 years, to wear a Dubai brand, so we're, I'll kind of tell you a little bit in a minute about what we plan for this year. But we do want to intend to race more internationally, so we can take the story further afield. And how great would that be to be wearing whatever that brand may be that represents Dubai, and people see us as being an ambassador, if you like, of Dubai and the UAE. So yeah, that's a wish, but we're still trying to find that brand.
Thank you. So one of my questions, which I think you've probably answered, is what are your main sources of cash flow? I know we've spoken about sponsorship.
Yeah.
Is that solely where your cash flow comes from?
Yeah, look, sponsorship is one element. It covers the big tick in the box that allows us to operate, do what we do, assist us with all the requirements from logistics to equipment, etc. Also, most importantly, pays us a salary, which at the end of the day puts food on our table, roof over our head. The other elements that we do is, I'd like to use the word sponsorship, but we go out, we do a lot of inspirational talks. So we go out to schools a lot. What we try and do with schools, because what we've learned over the years, especially at the moment, companies have different budgets if they want to support or sponsor a CSR initiative. So we've kind of done a real entry level. So for the first couple of years, I actually used to do all my school talks for free. And we love to do that, but like we all know, time is precious. And when you run an organization like yourself, we do need cash. So what we did last year, which has still been quite difficult, we charge for a school talk. But we want corporates to sponsor those school talks. So we go to a school and say, look, fantastic, because they want us to come in and tell a story. But we'll go in and say this school talk is brought to you by Rove Hotels, for example. And it's just a recognition as well. So we start that really simple at 2,500 dirhams, which allows us to go into schools, which we want to do more. The other side is we do corporate inspirational talks. So next week I've got Debizzle.
Oh, fantastic.
So we do talks. We've had audience up to, I think my biggest so far is about 1,500 people, of which I love telling our story. Yeah. So, and I'll be honest with you, going in and doing a talk to a company is our great introduction, because companies then go, wow, we understand who you are, what you do, what your requirements are, and more or less it starts to open the doors where a company goes, actually, we'd like to help you. And it's, it comes from the heart, our story, like we're telling now. So it's a fantastic introduction. So I'll be honest with you, we're trying as much as we can at the moment to get out to many companies as possible and say, look, please invite us to come in and do a talk. Obviously there's a cost for that, but at least it starts, it not only starts that introduction, but also I think within an organization it tells such a great story. And what we do with the talks as well, because obviously everyone has annual meetings, whatever they may be, there's always obviously a theme around it. It might be around team building, it might be about communication, and we adapt our talks as well that make them reflect whatever those highlights in that meeting.
So effectively you're getting paid to do keynote speeches.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's fantastic that you've kind of, carved that out. And it's good that you can get paid for that as well.
Yes.
I still think it's, in some cases, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, there's certain, organizations that maybe can't afford to pay, but doing a free talk is likely going to maybe result in something else in the future.
Look, 100%. And I think we've always got to weigh that up. Like I said, there's organizations or there's friends or people who help us in other ways. So, even on the other side of it, we have what we call service providers who help us pro bono. So I have lawyers, I have the best lawyers in the world, who help us year on year, because we are non-profit, because of obviously the delicacy of, I wouldn't say fundraising, but all those kind of terminologies. We make sure that we never put anything out there that's wrong, if that makes sense, and there's a wrong perception, because we don't want to do anything wrong. We've been here 20 years. This is our home. We want to do everything by the book. So even when we're putting together agreements for sponsorship or whatever that may be, we want to make sure that everything is correct. So like you said, we have been known to go in and do talks for free, but in return, like you said, there's maybe not a financial commitment towards Team Angel Wolf, but there's someone who said, okay, we're a PR company, so we'll help you with our next campaign.
And you don't know, there might be a businessman listening to that who thinks, right, what they're doing is fantastic. I want to help. I want to get them in to do a keynote speech, and they pay you $5,000-$10,000 to do that or something. Okay. Thank you for that, Nick. I'd like to delve a little bit further into to the non-profit.
Yep.
So I was reading a study on the internet yesterday, and it showed that two of the biggest challenges identified by non-profit financial professionals were identifying long-term sustainability and finding new funding sources. I think you've pretty much answered that, yeah?
Yeah, look, and I think one thing that we've come to realize as well over the last couple of years, even our sponsorship, we work on an annual basis, and our slight problem as well is the time of year. So because of the racing season, when we're wearing a company's brand, we start our sponsorship year at the beginning of August and goes to the end of July. So by the time we're about to hit our race season in the next couple of weeks, we've obviously got the company brands on us, etc., and we're going to race with them for the whole year. Because it would be very difficult to start changing brands at January. So you get to kind of December, halfway through the season, we're changing obviously all our identity. So you can imagine when it comes to people's budgets, to commit in the middle of a season is very difficult. So, the corporates that I'm going out to the moment, obviously they're like, okay, our budget's already been spent. Actually, it's been cut anyway because of financial difficulties. So it's a real tough time to be obviously touching base with companies, but also what we found as well, and where we'd like to move this forward, is to try and get a long-term commitment. So, and it gives us security, because every summer we're struggling. This last summer has been horrendous. We've not traveled, we've not done anything. We've just been reliant on trying to get out to as much corporates as possible, and it's very, very stressful every season. So we kind of hoping, obviously, as we kind of hopefully finalizing or still looking for sponsors for this year, see if we can get at least 1, 2, 3 year commitment with the companies, and then it's a long organic growth that we can be working with the organization.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. How do you go about finding new funding sources? Do you have to pitch yourselves, or do people come to you?
Look,
I guess this goes back to what I said about wearing so many different hats.
Oh, look, this is quite frustrating, to be honest with you. I think over the years we've built up a really good network, of which who will respond to us every year. So there's people that we'll go back to, and they will try and get involved, even though they don't become what we call a category sponsor. So the way in which our sponsorship works, we've done it this year. So we're trying to align ourselves with an organisation that ticks one box. So we're sponsored by Toyota, have been absolutely fantastic. So that's kind of vehicle logistics, if you like to say. We're also sponsored by the Sustainable City. Obviously, you run there with us. Unbelievable. Love the owner. It fits who we are. We're vegan, plant-based, and healthy eating. So absolutely fantastic. We've got Demand Insurance on board from Abu Dhabi. Been unbelievable. They're coming to our second year. And then we've got a little small business, Livco, who hold Panzani, which is obviously a pasta group coming out of France. So what we're trying to do is categorize ourselves, but we are obviously looking for a big sponsor as well. But we will connect base with obviously people that we've touched base throughout the year. And then unfortunately we have to do the emails, find emails. We use our contacts. So if we're looking for a particular brand at the moment, we'd love a water brand. So we go out to, who might know. So we use our community, the people that we know, our triathletes, people that race with us. And then we use things like LinkedIn. LinkedIn, is huge for me. Not many people respond, to be honest. But you never know. It's those introductions. And I'll be totally honest with you when it comes to finding sponsors. Our sponsorship always comes from a decision maker. I need to sit in front of a CEO, someone in charge who loves our story. Because unfortunately, especially on bigger organizations, once you start hitting marketing departments, CS, at the moment they're all getting back to us and saying, look, we don't have the budget. I kind of get that, but I know there's a budget. But when it comes from a decision maker, they love you, they like the brand, you love the ethos, then it completely changes the story and that connection. And every one of the organizations that I've worked with, it has been at that level that I've met, sat down, they've just turned around, we'll make it work. Because if the big boss is saying to his marketing department, support Team Angel Wolf, then it's done. And then it builds a fantastic relationship because then I'm working directly with the owners. Yeah.
And I guess you recognizing that you need to speak to the people at the top, it's going to cut out a lot of the messing around that you've probably done in the past and haven't got anywhere.
Of course, and you probably know, by the time it gets up to that decision maker, they probably need to make a proposal, and then it needs to go through a stamp, and then it needs to be signed off. So, yeah, meet the big boss. Hopefully it's a done deal.
It's interesting.
Do the magic.
I was, I was saying to you that, you have to wear so many different hats. I remember many years ago reading a sales book.
Okay.
And a lady was mentioned in this book, and I just didn't expect her to be. So a chapter was particularly, it was focused on Mother Teresa.
Okay.
And apparently, she is one of the best negotiators. Her sales skills are absolutely incredible, and she's one of the best negotiators out there.
Okay.
So much so that they put her in this book. So, you wouldn't probably put that in with kind of, like the sales process. But, like I say, you have to, there's so many different aspects to your role and what you do. And effectively, you're running a business,
100%.
But you're probably doing the job maybe of, say 7, 8, 9 or whatever people between two of you.
Look, totally agree. And we know, to be honest with you, we've got different skill sets between myself and Delphine. And she is the writer. So anything that you read, all the literature, she's magic. She's unbelievable. And she's a great ideas person. I'm obviously the face of Team Angel Wolf. I'm the one that makes everything look pretty. I actually make all the videos that you see online. But also, just to let you know, we've kind of come through end of a season now. And we've got some fantastic help from an agency at the moment who we're rebranding. We're playing with the logo. We're putting all the story. That's going to develop a website. We're looking at doing merchandise as well, which, like you were asking a little bit earlier, actually I forgot to say, which can and we're allowed to.
I love your branding, by the way.
It's going to change a little
bit.
Is it
going to change?
Not much, but it's cool. I'm getting the first proposal on Tuesday. So we're looking at making some change, but also we're going out, just to give you an idea, and I'll be honest with you, our category sponsors, if you don't mind me saying, come in at 250,000 dirhams per annum. What's even included this year, we've upped it. It used to be 180, but you get actually 5 running chairs. You know the running chairs that we run with?
Yes.
We're going to include that. You get 5 chairs. That means we can do more, get more people into our community runs. We want to expand those into different locations. So that's a category sponsor. Then I'll be honest with you, we tried this year. Someone said, why don't you just go and ask? And we don't know, we might get it. We're doing a title sponsor, one title sponsor, which is going to be 1 million dirhams. They will get 10 chairs. They will basically be the big brand that supports us. But with that type of finance, it allows us to grow. It allows us to have a finance to
when you say
assist
they get
with
10 chairs, what? Sorry.
10 running chairs. You know the running push chairs that we run with the kids?
Yeah.
That's included in the sponsorship. So the sponsorship means that each one of the companies that sponsor us now will help us build our initiatives. So we've got an initiative called Together We Can. We run it from Sustainable City every 2 weeks. We bring children with disabilities down. We allow anyone to come. Mums can bring their kids, scooters, it doesn't matter. And literally we do a 30-minute workout. People can walk, people can jog, people can run. But what's most important about the session is people are helping someone with a disability. So when the kids come, you've got to help them out of a wheelchair into one of our chairs, and we go out together. That's inclusion for me. So our focus has never just been about racing. That is just a part of it. We're growing those aspects at the moment. And that's just one of our community programs. So I have 5 chairs at the moment. So even this year when we do races, we're going to start taking the chairs along. We'll invite more kids to come, but then we're going to invite the community to come and push a child. And that's really one of our focuses for the year. So how do we engage with the community? Because it's great us doing what we do, but so many people want to get involved. How can we help? Even if it's just on time base, coming down. But for me, inclusion is about hands-on. There is nothing more rewarding than helping someone from a wheelchair into a running chair and obviously going into a session. And I don't know, we do another session called Beach Blast. So we're sponsored by the Fairmont. I've got 5 floating wheelchairs. Every 2 weeks, free. We go to a school, bring 20 kids down. We invite 5 to 10 children with disabilities down there, and they get the opportunity to play, to interact, obviously with a child with disability. And it's great. We come down, the chairs are lined up, there's kids there in a wheelchair, and we say to the kids, look, you've got to help them get from their wheelchair into one of our chairs and go and play with them in the water.
Wow, that's fantastic. I didn't know you did all of this.
This is awesome. I'll send you some links. So this for us is kind of engaging with the community. And we get kids that come down at the beginning like, I've never met a child with disability. I've never seen someone in a wheelchair. Dubai is lovely, but unfortunately there's not enough of that awareness. And they're like, what shall I do? And I say to all the kids, there is no brief here. There's a wheelchair that floats, there's a beach there, and you're going to figure it out. And they come, the children come at the beginning of the session, they're all a bit shy, they're like, I don't know what to do. An hour later, they're best friends, they're singing. So that word disability has just gone. They've become a part of everyone's community. And we have races up and down the beach. This is magical. And for us, that's our focus on Team Angel. So we want to grow these initiatives. We want to grow, obviously, with the floating chair program we do. We want to get it into other locations. The running chair program is great. So we want to be at races. Hopefully in the future, we'll do a 5K run, but there'll be 20 chairs from Team Angel Wolf. We will run together. So that's the focus. It's not a race. And whoever is I wouldn't say the slowest, but whatever that pace is, we'll stay at their pace and we'll do 5 kilometers. Because for me, that's engagement. That's engaging with children. And Rio will be there, of course, but what it starts to do, it starts to allow other parents to go, wow, okay, I want to be a part of that. I'd like to bring my child with a disability or none as well, just for that exposure. So, these are the things that allow us to grow, but without sponsorship, we can't fund any of these projects. So, it's not just about supporting Team Angel, it's growing these initiatives. And like you said, we wear too many hats. I need to employ people. I need people to help with the administration of doing one of those sessions. So when we do the Beach Blast, we have to engage with the school. We have to make sure all the kids are there, all the waivers done. Then we've got to reach out to, obviously, the community who want to bring their children down with disabilities. So, there's a lot of administration. My wife normally takes care of that, but, she's got to do what she does as well. And so yeah, look, it's a challenge, but where we want to grow Team Angel Wolf is we need support. We need financial support. that support will not only allow us to grow in Dubai, but the UAE. But I'll be honest with you, my focus for Team Angel Wolf is to take the concept global. Team Angel Wolf could easily be set up in other regions. We're in the process of figuring out how that is, how it would look if we're not there. Can other people run our initiatives? So yeah, our big focus is Together We Can, which is the running pushchair, and Beach Blast.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
fantastic. Cool. Thank you. What is your proudest moment with Rio?
Oh.
I'm sure there's been many, but is there one particular that stands out?
I don't know if there's proudest moments. The moment that changed me was, so if you did a DIT in November, do you remember in the February they did Challenge Dubai here?
Yes, after DIT.
After DIT.
That was my second one.
That was your second one?
That was my second and last one.
You did Challenge Dubai?
Yeah.
So you remember the weather?
The weather was horrendous.
Of course. So that was our second race.
I nearly had a panic attack in the water.
I think we all did. Almost drowned. Okay.
And on the bike, I remember I couldn't even get down on my tri-bars. I think I probably weighed about 49 kg at the time. Couldn't even get down on the tri-bars. I was literally holding on with dear life, going about 16 kilometers per hour.
That was my second race as well.
Okay.
I do not know. I didn't realize that. That's awesome. Okay. So
and that was for me, that was the biggest achievement because the challenging weather.
100%. No, so we went down. The organisers turned around to me and said, "Nick, I don't think you should swim." I'm like, "Yeah, right. We're swimming." And
they changed the swim route, didn't they?
They changed the swim.
They made it into 2 laps as opposed to 1.
They made it 2 laps within that the little kind of secluded area, but still the waves were huge. Yeah. I've still got videos.
I was doing doggy paddle at the beginning, and I thought, no, there's no way I'm going to get around doing doggy paddle. Well, I think it was breaststroke I was doing, not doggy paddle. And it was tough.
So
I don't know how you.
Well, that was our second race. So we also, during the swim, I had Sam Whittam again from Adventure HQ. I said to him, "Mate, look, when I swim."
He's from Dubai Creek Striders, yeah.
No.
The runner.
It's not.
That's Sam Whitcomb, I think.
Yeah. More of a cyclist than he is a runner.
Okay.
Anyway, so I said to Sam, please, second race, big waves. If Rio falls out, I need to know because I'm trying to figure out every wave. And if you remember, every time we hit the top of the wave, you're just trying to, where's the boy? You're going straight. So I said to him, look, please follow me on the swim. So we went out and swam, and I'll be honest with you, it is still to date probably the hardest swim I ever did.
I don't know if you experienced this. I mean, mine comes from my fear of open water, but that's just because I don't do enough of it. Yeah. It's just because I don't get out there and do enough sea swims. If I did, I probably wouldn't have that fear. So then when I get to race day, but I remember a panic attack coming on. Have you ever experienced anything like that in the water?
Look, I have to admit, I struggled in the swim, and I think when we was out on one of the boys, second maybe doing the top end of the triangle, I remember turning around, swimming, looking to my left, and the boy's there. 10 more strokes, the boy's still there. I'm going nowhere. And then I'm trying to think, oh my God, is Rio okay? And I'm looking back, Rio's bouncing up and down obviously in the waves, and I'm thinking worst case scenario, what happens if Rio goes in the water? And yeah, that was probably the scariest moment.
I guess you couldn't
all
strap
the races I could do.
Rio in, could you? Because if the kayak flips,
turns in, he's stuck underneath it. So he has a life jacket. So he's better off, like any kayak as well. Don't strap him. You know what I mean? We have even these floating wheelchairs where they have a belt. I don't let the kids wear a belt. They wear a life jacket because if they turn over, it's better to pop up and grab them up than to be stuck underneath the chair. So we do not strap Rio in. But yeah, to answer your question, that was probably I wouldn't say a panic attack, but it was that kind of moment going, my God, I'm struggling here, which doesn't happen very often.
It's not only yourself, you've got Rio to think about.
Of course, and he's my priority. So yeah, look, we did the swim. The guy that was supposed to do the paddle board, I get back into shore, he's still on the beach. I was like, Sam, what's happened? It's like, Nick, I didn't even make it past the waves. I was like, So you weren't actually there as my kind of safety angle. And I was like,
After all that.
But he did say, look, there were loads of jet skis. I got back on the shore. He didn't even leave the shore anyway. So the organisers were brilliant, by the way, and they made sure they were close by. So I did have people around me.
I don't know who was in the kayak that day, but they have the organisers and they have them in kayaks just in case you want to put your arm up and get out. Whoever it was, she was a complete meanie. Because I swear to God, I couldn't see where I was going, and I think because I was at the back, I wasn't really being guided by anyone, and I'd gone a little bit off track. She told me I had to swim back.
No way.
I swear, and I'm like, even in the water, I'm thinking, are you serious? Yeah. Like, come on. Told me I had to swim back and go back. I can't remember what it was, but go back round, and just thought, oh my God, like the weather conditions that day. I think I ended up swimming a lot more than I should have done on that day.
I think a lot of people did. It was, it was tough. Someone was saying loads of tents and everything fell down. So look, we complete the swim, and you're asking me probably best moment, but I think the best thing, Rio said many things, but this what changed me. So we get on the bike. So 90k in a sandstorm, as you remember, was horrendous. Just to give you some statistics, Rio probably at the time was weighing about 30 kilos. My bike's about 35. So I push 60, 70 kilos on the bike. I'm sure your bike weighs about 10. So obviously a slight more effort when we get on the bike. And Rio also is not the most aerodynamic boy. He sits there with his legs open watching everything go by, so he's quite happy. But obviously when you're into a headwind and a sandstorm, you do struggle. So we get in, we're actually coming back. So remember, if we went up to Academic City, we turned around, we're coming back down to Maidan. And I remember I had about 30 kilometers to do. And it's as much as we struggled for the first 60k, I started to think about Rio. This is my second race. Rio is non-verbal, so but I'm sure if he didn't want to do something, trust me, he will communicate that he didn't want to do it. But you get concerned. You're obviously his father. You're out. You're spending 90 kilometers on a bike in a sandstorm. This little boy was still 11, and you're like thinking, is he okay? And then you start thinking, actually, if he wants to stop, we stop. That's it. I've done one race, and I was literally kind of going, okay, I totally respect you, Rio. We will stop. And we're coming back into town, and we could just see Burj Khalifa in the distance. We're kind of coming back into just before we hit Maidan. And always remember this moment, and Rio turns around and looks at me, and if you see my bike, he sits in front of me, and he turns around and his eyes are all bloodshot from the sand. He's got tears in his eyes, but not obviously from crying, but just from the sand and everything. And I'm thinking he's probably going to say, Dad, I'm waiting for it, finish, halas, find another sport, something that just communicates that he's had enough. And I still think I'm going to get to tears. He turns around, looks at me, and just says, Dada, I love you.
Oh my God.
And that changed me. That's why I do what
sweet.
I
It
do.
brings tears to my eyes.
And every day I go out, every morning I see him, still today. This morning, the first thing he says to me, he was downstairs having breakfast. I'd been swimming, and I come in, and he just says, Dada, race.
So I guess that, I did that race, so I know how challenging it was. And when we get to the challenging bits, we need those moments of inspiration.
Of course you do.
So I bet those 3 words were your moments
I
of
was
inspiration
in tears.
to
I
finish the
cried
race.
for the next 30 kilometers. I was a bubbling mess.
Oh,
I was like, it just brought me to tears.
amazing.
And I just, even at the end, even on the run, did you completed the race, yeah?
I did. My calf ruptured. Oh no, that was on DIT. Yeah, I completed it.
You completed it.
Yeah.
So even even the run was windy, I was like, oh my God. And every direction we went, whereas it seemed to be running against the wind. So we went across the finish line. Even remember on that race, we'd been out there for 6-7 hours, whatever it was. And this little boy has just sat there patiently smiling and loving it. And I get to the end, and I try and get Rio out the pushchair. And he's pushing me back. He's going, Dada, no, more. Come on, Rio, you've done
Oh my
7
God.
hours. So I think if I need any inspiration in my life, it's him. And he inspires me to do what I do, which in return, I've just become his diesel engine that pushes him around.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Now, when you have a child with disabilities,
Yeah.
it can be challenging for the more able child because they don't get as much attention. How do you manage to ensure that the balance is even with both your kids? And have you experienced, has this been a challenge for you with Tia?
Look, it's a fantastic question. I love people that ask personal things that think they're not quite sure if they should. It's so important to us. Tia is her own little personality. That's why her nickname's Little Wolf. She's fitted in, but right from the offset, because of obviously having Rio, we make sure there's that balance in everything that we possibly can do. You might see she also races with Rio. It's not something we ever push her into. It's something that she chooses to do. She wants to do that. But when it comes to every day, we make sure that we're doing things on both parties. So if we're doing something with Rio, we make sure that she's also getting time and attention. But the lovely thing is, we are such a close-knit family. Everything we do together. You know, I mean, we never, leave one party at home and go out and do an activity. We're generally all there together, so we make sure that she's included. But it's a great question, and it's an easy one for Rio to get more attention than Tia. But we hope not. After I ask her in next time, I'll give that answer that correctly.
That's amazing. Thank you. We've been talking for almost an hour now.
Oh, really?
So just going to ask you one more question.
Okay.
So how much longer do you think you'll keep racing with Rio? Because he's getting heavier and heavier by the day as he gets older and older. This must be a challenge on you physically.
Well, look, can I tell you one thing we're doing in November? And you've got to get involved. We're doing something called Try with Rios. Back in February, we did Try with Rio 1. So this was for the Special Olympics. So I did 7 half Ironmans, 7 days in each one of the Emirates. So 1.9, 90, 21, back-to-back in every Emirate. We did that back in February. This year, we've kind of thought, why don't we do something kind of big every year? It's my 50th birthday in November. So on the 14th, 15th, and 16th, I'm going to do an Ultraman. Which is 10k swim, 150k bike day 1, day 2 cycle 275, day 3 run 85. The thing that we thought about this when I went to do it, one, I want to challenge myself, so I think I can go for a few more years. Rio's happy, he motivates me. Other than injury, that's the only thing that will probably let me stop. But to answer your question, Tia also may, if she wants, take my place and be involved. But we'll see where that goes. But the Ultraman, what we're doing in November, that we're doing it down at Maidan. We're just about to announce it. So we're just getting the approvals are there, but we just need a bit of paper. At District 1, so they have an artificial lake in the middle. So we're going to swim there. There's an island, and we're going to swim around the island for 10k. And obviously, for each one of the disciplines, it's not really an event, it's a challenge. So there's no bibs, timings, but we're inviting the community to come and join us, but they can do as much or as little as they want. I reckon everyone in Dubai can come and join us for this event, because I reckon everyone, if they have a bike, can cycle 9 kilometers. Also on the last day, with the run or walk 9 kilometers, we think the majority of the community can come and join us and support what we do. We're also going to have our chairs, obviously our running chairs. People will get the opportunity to interact with another child with disabilities or determination and get them involved. So, yeah, that's just
Wow, that sounds fantastic.
one of the things that we're doing. So we want to do something big, and it sits in Dubai Fitness Challenge. I also share my birthday with His Highness Sheikh Hamdan on the 14th. So, look, it's a big event for us, but yeah, I can't see myself giving up at the moment. I love what I do, and I think like yourself, I think we all need to find our passions in life. My son has found my passion. I did a sport many years ago, started at 16, and I'm still doing it today. I wake up this morning, I swam this morning. This is the best job in the world. I live at Sustainable City. I took a photo. It's on social media. This beautiful pool in the desert, and that was my morning. Tomorrow morning I'll be up at 4. I'm going to cycle. We'll run. I row. Whatever it is. Do yoga. I love what I do. This is the best job in the world. And I'm so fortunate that life has taken me down this route. Like I said, we've lost 2 companies. I've never really mentioned it. We've lost huge amounts of money. It's bankrupted us twice. But what's most important to us today is we do something that we love, we're passionate about, and hopefully not only we, got a very contented family, we're hopefully inspiring others and making them want to make some change and some positive change in their own lives.
Yeah, you definitely are. You certainly inspire me when I follow your journeys. I'm going to wrap this up now.
Yep.
One thing I just do want to say is that I'm a big believer in that our life is packaged to us in a certain way, and that all the events that happen, the challenging times, the losing the businesses, and having Rio as, it's enabled you to do what you do and to create this awareness. So I think, maybe, I don't know, the universe probably thinks you're the most perfect person to do it.
Look, and I totally and utterly agree with you. Life goes in its all right directions, and it's a journey at the end of the day. I think where we're fortunate, and I hope that the listeners will find that, is finding where that journey may take them. But whatever life throws at you, hopefully you'll all end up on top.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you, Nick.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much for your time today. And thank you again to Rove Hotel and everyone that's tuned in to listen to this podcast. Your support really does mean a lot to me. If you are listening on iTunes, please subscribe and leave a review, because this helps the podcast become visible and it enables us to reach a wider audience. And again, thank you to Rove Hotel and Dubai Marina for allowing us to use their fantastic venue and for their never-ending support.